I'm not sure if you've sensed it as well, but there's just something about where NASCAR stands in this exact moment that feels unmistakably different. It's like we're standing right on the brink of a major shift. And the crazy part is, it's not coming from just one direction. Two huge stories are developing simultaneously, and the way they overlap could genuinely reshape what we're about to witness on the racetrack. On one hand, there's a significant behind-the-scenes adjustment that has the potential to completely transform how drivers compete at one of the most demanding and intense venues on the entire schedule. It's an issue that's been lingering for some time now, and it finally looks like it might be getting properly addressed. On the other hand, we're experiencing an unusual pause in the schedule, one that almost feels like the quiet before the storm, because what's waiting right after this break could turn out to be one of the most critical races of the young season. If you're a true NASCAR fan, you already recognize these kinds of moments. These are the exact points in time that end up shaping the entire direction of a championship campaign. So stay with me here as we dive deep into both of these developments. And real quick, if you love this kind of in-depth NASCAR conversation, do me a favor and smash that like button while you're here and make sure you subscribe. This channel is just getting rolling, and we're working hard to hit 15,000 subscribers. It's all about genuine fans having real discussions about real racing. Let's start with the first story, because this one has the power to dramatically alter what we see when the cars hit the track at Bristol Motor Speedway. NASCAR and Goodyear have rolled out a pretty meaningful tire update specifically for the Food City 500. And if you've been following Bristol closely over the last few seasons, you already understand precisely why this is such a big deal. The core problem has been wildly inconsistent tire wear, and not the exciting kind. We've watched races where the tires would absolutely disintegrate, literally shredding and chunking off in large pieces, particularly when the temperatures fell. That combination of colder weather and Bristol's abrasive concrete surface meant the rubber wasn't laying down properly. Instead of building those beautiful, dark, classic racing grooves we all love, the tires were simply tearing themselves apart. That's not the kind of racing NASCAR or Goodyear wants to deliver. Their vision is for the rubber to gradually melt into the track surface over the course of the run, creating multiple usable racing lines, giving drivers real choices, and ultimately producing much better, more entertaining racing for everyone watching. Here, what makes this update especially intriguing. Goodyear conducted a dedicated tire test back in November. According to Justin Fantasy, the director of racing for the Americas at Goodyear, that test delivered a massive amount of valuable data. His main objective was to develop a tire that relies far less on temperature when it comes to laying down rubber effectively. Teams have been extremely vocal about how drastically conditions can swing between practice sessions and actual race day. You can bring one setup that works great in practice, only for the weather to shift, and suddenly all that data becomes worthless. But during that November test, even in cold conditions, the track started taking rubber nicely. The same positive behavior showed up again during the March OEM wheel force test. As a result, Goodyear is heading into this weekend with real confidence in this new tire package. There is, however, an important detail: this tire change applies exclusively to the NASCAR Cup Series. That means while the Cup cars will be running on this updated tire, the Craftsman Truck Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, which compete on Friday and Saturday, will continue using the exact same tire compound they've run since the fall of 2022. So we could potentially see very different handling characteristics and racing dynamics across the same weekend at the exact same track. And that's genuinely fascinating, because if Goodyear has truly hit the mark here, if they've found that perfect balance between extreme tire degradation and almost zero falloff, where cars can comfortably run 150 laps on a set, then Sunday could deliver peak Bristol racing. We're talking real tire strategy, cars moving forward and falling back, multiple grooves working, everything that makes short-track racing so special. But if they miss the target, we might slide right back into unpredictable tire problems or another race where strategy barely matters. So yes, there's a tremendous amount riding on this tire performance. Now let's move to the second story, because this one perfectly sets the stage for everything that's coming. For the first time all season, the NASCAR Cup Series is taking an actual break over Easter weekend. And I have to admit, it feels strange. We've been in non-stop action since February, and now suddenly there's nothing on Sunday. No Cup race, just a pause in the schedule. It's not a total blackout, of course. Both the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Craftsman Truck Series ran at Rockingham last weekend, so there was still plenty of racing for the die-hard fans. But still, missing a Cup event on Sunday just hits differently. And the placement of this break is actually quite significant, because it arrives right after a really strong stretch of racing action. We just witnessed Chase Elliott put on a clinic at Martinsville Speedway, driving away from Denny Hamlin on March 29th to capture the Cookout 400 victory. That was a powerful statement win on a short track. Meanwhile, Tyler Reich has been operating on an entirely different level this season. He sits comfortably atop the points standings, and the gap isn't even close. He's already collected wins at the Daytona 500, back-to-back triumphs at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and another dominant performance at the Duramax Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. That's pure dominance. So as we head into this break, the sport has momentum, compelling storylines, budding rivalries, and then everything simply stops for a moment. But this pause isn't accidental. It's strategically placed to lead directly into what could be one of the most pivotal races of the early season. Because when the Cup Series returns, it heads straight to Bristol Motor Speedway for the Food City 500 on April 12th, live at 2 p.m. on FS1. Not only are we getting this new tire compound, but we're also introducing an increased horsepower package. That combination has everyone in the garage paying very close attention. Bristol is already one of the most challenging and unforgiving tracks in all of motorsports, tight, steeply banked, with zero margin for error. Now you layer on extra horsepower along with a tire that could fundamentally change how the track surface evolves throughout the race, and you have the perfect recipe for absolute chaos or absolute greatness, possibly both at the same time. And the schedule doesn't ease up afterward either. Right after Bristol comes the Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway on April 19th on Fox, then the Jack Links 500 at Talladega Superspeedway on April 26th, a race we all know is defined by pure unpredictability. After that, the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway on May 24th, widely regarded as one of the most grueling races of the year. There's even the unique Anduril 250 at Naval Base Coronado in San Diego on June 21st. And of course, the entire season builds toward the NASCAR Cup Series championship at Homestead Miami Speedway on November 8th. So this Easter break isn't merely downtime. It's the calm before a massive defining stretch of racing that could very well determine the narrative of the entire 2026 season. And as a fan, these are exactly the kinds of moments you pay close attention to because we now have a new tire, a new power package, a driver on a serious hot streak in Tyler Reich, fresh momentum from Chase Elliott, and all of it is about to collide head-on at Bristol. That's why this race matters so much. That's why the Food City 500 is one you need to circle on your calendar. Because there's a real possibility we'll look back months from now and say that's the weekend when everything changed. Now I want to hear from you in the comments. What are you expecting to see at Bristol? Do you believe Goodyear has finally nailed this tire, or are we walking into another weekend of unpredictable tire drama? Let me know your thoughts. Let's discuss it, because if you ask me, this entire situation has the feeling of one of those genuine turning points in the season, the kind we usually only fully appreciate once the checkered flag has flown. I really respect that NASCAR and Goodyear are actively trying to solve the tire problem instead of just living with it. Bristol is far too important a racetrack to have its events ruined by tires coming apart in unpredictable and unfair ways. We want meaningful tire strategy and controlled falloff, but it has to make sense. It should reward drivers who manage their equipment intelligently, not punish the entire field randomly. At the same time, I'm approaching this with a bit of healthy caution. Every time we hear about a new tire fix or an improved package, there's always that lingering question. Did they actually strike the right balance, or are we about to experience something completely different from what we're expecting? And when you mix that uncertainty with the increased horsepower package, the unpredictability level rises even higher. More power at Bristol already demands better throttle control, creates more opportunities for mistakes, and puts extra pressure on every driver. Now add a tire that might behave differently over long runs, and suddenly this race becomes much more about who can adapt the quickest. That's exactly why I believe this event is going to separate the contenders from the rest of the field. Drivers like Tyler Reich, who are already riding a wave of momentum, could capitalize on these conditions and continue building their advantage. But at the same time, veteran drivers like Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott, fresh off a big win, have the experience to read how the track is changing lap after lap. That ability could prove decisive in the closing stages. We also can't overlook the timing. Coming right after the Easter break, this is the type of race where some teams arrive sharp and prepared while others show up flat. That reset period can either work in your favor or work against you. And at a place like Bristol, you don't have the luxury of slowly figuring things out. So for me, this feels like one of those rare weekends where every single detail counts: car setup, tire management, track position, and raw driver feel. If Goodyear has gotten this tire right, we could be in for one of the strongest Bristol races in years. If they haven't, then we'll probably be having a very different conversation once the race is over. Either way, I'll be glued to every single lap. And don't forget, if you enjoy this level of real, passionate NASCAR discussion, go ahead and drop a like on the video and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. The channel is still growing, we're pushing hard toward that 15,000 subscriber mark, and it's built entirely for fans who live and breathe this sport every single week. I'll see you in the next one.